So, welcome, Colm Keegan.
What's the story?
Welcome to Waterford Writers Weekend
Thanks.
2021. We are live in Downses, albeit being recorded. And this segment is called Desert Island Poetry, which we stole from Radio 4, but we're running with it.
Yeah, sounds good.
So we're going to talk about some poems.
Yeah.
We're in Downses because this is where we met first.
Mm.
And you were touring a play
Yeah.
called Three Men Talking About Things They Kind of Know About.
I was waiting to see if you get the
If I get
if
it
you get
wrong.
the whole thing. Yeah. I was leaving you hanging.
Yeah, that's when we met first. So we're friends. We've had lots of great conversations. But I suppose we haven't really had many in-depth conversations about poetry. It's generally about the work that we do with young people around being creative and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So prior to us having this conversation, I obviously sent a few questions. So we just go straight into it.
Yeah, we may as well. Yeah.
What was the first poem like that? What was the poem that first sparked an interest in poetry?
It was mad. Like when I was thinking about this. So when you're in this kind of set, now this is a really chill kind of set, but like when you're, it's like, what was the poem that made you, you know, that made you like sparked an interest?
Was
And
it
you're like,
Yeats?
yeah, you know what I mean? And you're going back to like all the, you are actually going, for me anyway, you are going back to the old dead men in Salmon, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, it goes back further than that for me to like Revolt and Rhymes and
Yeah.
Roald Dahl and all. And it's that, you know, and like, but then there's supposed to be this magical thing that happens
Yeah.
and it can be romanticised and like sort of fetishized, like, you know, this idea that the poet, like, was made something by another poet, but then it's kind of true a lot of the time. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing with, and for me, all cliche aside, like I can remember, I was lucky I think because I had to do fifth year twice because our school was like a bit of a disaster. It was like we were in Clondalk and our school wasn't built. We were getting ferried around to different schools, and then we were getting too big for all the places they put us, and they tried to merge us with another school. And then he says, "No, look, Kizzle." We just kept going. We tried to stay open, and there was all protests, and the teachers were sleeping in porta cabins to stop the bulldozing the school and all this mad stuff. And we went and we marched. I was on Today Tonight and all, like as a kid.
Oh, fame.
Marching, you know what I mean? Hey, give us a bleeding school, Department of Education. But the mad thing happened, like the school got so big, fifth year and second year were offered the chance to only do a half day a day. Because there wasn't enough room in the school.
Okay.
So I did fifth year English syllabus twice.
Okay.
So the first year I did like Emma and Hamlet as my novel and my play, and then second year I did King Lear and Wuthering Heights.
Okay.
So it was a weird kind of, and then I did poetry twice. I had two different poetry teachers.
Yeah. Did you prefer one over the other?
Well, Miss Sinclair was really, was kind of cool, but like was sort of, you know, just kind of destroyed on a regular basis by the class because we were all just messers. And one fella I remember once had to bring in a poem and he just wrote a Brian like Tom Petty lyrics, you know, the classic kind of thing. And then, but it was Miss Sinclair like who taught us about Kavanagh.
Okay.
And like I just got it. I don't know what it was, whether it was the right time, and I don't know if I'm sure it was the first year, not the second year. So all the stuff about 2 fifth years is kind of irrelevant, maybe.
Yeah.
But like, it was Stony Grey Soil.
Okay.
Stony Grey Soil of Monaghan, and sure, will I read it, and
Yeah,
then we
please do. Yeah.
we can have a chat after. Yeah, so you know, 17, thinking everything's shy. What's the point of that? And, you know, school's stupid. And would have been wearing a 3/4 length leather jacket.
Yeah.
Being told to take it off all the time, but always trying to keep it on because that was like the ultimate act of resistance at school. What is it with teachers always trying to tell you to take your coat off? We all want to wear them. And hugging a heater, you know. And then, you know, I remember reading this and just really getting it. So Stony Grey Soil. Oh, stony grey soil of Monaghan, the laugh from my love you taved. You took the gay child of my passion and gave me your clod conceived. You clogged the feet of my boyhood, and I believed that my stumble had the poisoned stride of Apollo, and his voice my thick-tongued mumble. You told me the plough was immortal, O green life-conquering plough. Your mandrill stained, your culture blunted in the smooth leaf field of my brow. You sang on steaming dunghills, a song of cowards brewed. You performed my clothes with weasel-ish, perfumed my clothes with weasel itch. You fed me on swinish food. You flung a ditch on my vision of beauty, love and truth. O stony grey soil of Monaghan, you bogged the bank of my youth. Lost the long hours of pleasure, all the women that love young men. Oh, can I still stroke the monster's back, or write with unpoisoned pen his name in these lonely verses, or mention the dark fields where the forced gay flight of my lyric got caught in a peasant's prayer. Mala, I have never read, it's ages since I read these out loud. I should have rehearsed. Mulla Hinche, Drumrill, Black Shanko, wherever I turn I see, in the stony grey soil of Monaghan, dead loves that were born for me. Sinead?
Sinead.
Yeah.
What do you think? Why do you think that's the poem for you that that clicked something?
It wasn't so much like just that poem. Like it was in a way. It's looked tidy little. I don't know if you can see that there, but just lovely, tasty little quatrains. Do you know what I mean? And it's very recognisable. Its shape.
Yeah.
It's just like a really kind of tidy little poem. And I don't know. It was the teacher explaining to me that he resented where he grew up. Mm-hmm. And he's writing about it, and he's kind of coursing it. He's coursing being trapped in his own identity. He's always
like the ultimate teenage experience.
Yeah, he's always going to be a bogger, you know what I mean? And he comes up to Dublin and he's defined as this thing. And it's funny, like, Cavan is famous for, like, he literally walked to Dublin. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, come in. I want to be a poet. That's the cliche. Can I be a poet? You know, can I enter the establishment? And I'm being sort of facetious about it, but like. It's been my experience as well, It's just this thing that I walked up to. I didn't really know what it was. I wasn't really steeped in it or well versed. And then I was just like, and then I'm in a thing and I'm looking around it all, and I feel very different in it. And it was class for me. It was like being like a little fella from the flats, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And being marked as such and being defined in a way that was going to be on my control. Yeah. And then the first poem I had published was I called it Stony Grey and Soiled. Okay. And it was like about being marked by Ballymun and all my resentment of that identity. And it was quite cruel in a way, like I'm really hard on Ballymun in a way that I wouldn't be now. But I took this poem, and I sort of, it was like putting Kavanagh's clothes on and going around, like a little kid copying his dad, mm-hmm. And it's like, just got into the poem. I remember like typing and copying and pasting it into a document, line by line, meticulously sort of mimicking.
Applying it to your own experiences.
Yeah, and it was a little bit like forgery in a way, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But like it really get to understand. And it's like, I remember, what's his name? Joseph O'Connor did it with John McGahern's The Dark. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's a stupid thing to do. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, actually, because he said he rewrote a whole short story. He wrote John McGahern's The Dark out by hand. And then he just started to change it. Mm-hmm. And then he had a completely different short story at the end. And I was like, that's deadly, Yeah. So we did it. And I've done it a few times, when I was starting off, I used to do it with a lot of different poems, like you kind of climb inside them and reverse engineer them. Yeah.
Did you feel that poetry, like when you began to think about your own, maybe becoming a poet yourself, did you think that poetry was very exclusive or like difficult to try and access, or did you find it completely open to you, that it opened something up completely?
I was always a reader, so it was more like that, like it was something that sometimes I would be told wasn't for me. I think that was my experience in a way. It was like, and I was always kind of trying to fight against this idea that like I wasn't what you thought I was. You know what I mean? I always felt like I was saying that when I was growing up. It's like, you're just a scumbag. Like that's the kind of like the thing that was going on in my head. Now a lot of it was, just to do with like, being angry about my own background, my own family background and stuff like that. Even, my mum and dad splitting up, like stupid little things like that. But then it all turns into this thing where you're trying to be more than you are, and then sometimes people don't see it for who you are. Yeah. And
because I found maybe when I was like around that age of the 17, 18, probably up to my early 20s, I found poetry quite inaccessible, and it was because it was very intellectualized in the sense that I went, you know, I was good in school, but it was all about theory of poetry and trying to understand it, and I found it really difficult to connect to poetry in that way. And then I went and studied English in college, and again, like that, it was like, you know, I remember doing the Fairy Queen in college and like being like, yeah, I really understand it, but really not really having a clue what was going on, and, you know, feeling very separate. And it wasn't until I was kind of older then that I started to settle into poetry a bit, and it stopped scaring me so much, you know. But that's a kind of a polar opposite experience to maybe what you had.
Yeah, like, and I think, you know, just thinking back to Soundings, and there was a thing of like the questions in Soundings were really interesting. And I can remember, like, when I left home to live in my own place, and I was a young father, and you know, I was 24, I think. And the first night I lived in my own place for the first time, you know, I was sharing with a couple of other men, like just a couple of working lads, and I was just this young fella who had a 4-year-old, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I had the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, and I brought Soundings with me. I can remember bringing it, and it was a big deal to have it with me in this new house that I was in, and like opening it up and reading that, and like not really getting it, and then reading the questions, and then getting it because of the questions.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but there was this kind of thing. And I suppose, like, you know, that's was probably why I like teaching poetry as well, is because, like, to kind of break that.
And demystify
it's not a
it.
dark art.
Yeah.
Like, people, it's the spoofers will make it that, I think,
Yeah.
a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or, you know, well, or I can say about a poem that's not really that good is like, well, you don't really get it. But, like, it's my job to make somebody get it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think. And the great thing about Kavanagh was just clarity.
Okay.
And, like, you know, I might mention another one of his poems later on, but it was like, I sort of felt like I knew him. It was mad, you know what I mean? It was like, and I understood what he was saying, you know? And then there's this thing about, like, you know, he's quite religious, or not religious, mystic, like just that air of the mystic to him, and just that he's in connection with something deeper. There was something that, like, was intriguing me and drawing me in, and it was like kind of his vision, I think.
Yeah.
Thinking about it now. But again, like, what I loved about that was, and this is the great thing about all poems, and, like, you know, somebody could, like, I remember someone saying to me, what the fuck are you doing? Like, in Pat Kavanagh's poems, you're a dub, you're supposed to, like, kids lit, you know what I mean? It's just like, well, that's the one that spoke to me, and for someone else, when they're in school, it's a different poet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Speaking of that, what the next question was, what is a poem that speaks of home to you?
Yeah. Yeah, I struggled with that one.
Did you?
Yeah, because I was just like, the first thing when I think of home is I think of my own home. And then I've written loads of poems about my house. And and there's this thing of, like, where I very willfully celebrate the mundane, which is something that Kavanagh used to do. Or like just the profound moments where you'd be in a house and you're just like, this is all he ever wanted. And I remember someone saying before, poems like that often, Kavanagh's Canal Bank Walk is a good example. Poems of great peace are often the first awakening after great trauma when a person writes like that. So when I was thinking of home, all of that stuff's knocking around my head, and then I was thinking, like, of Dublin, you know.
Yeah, I suppose when I'm asking the question, when I was thinking about that question,
you're thinking of locality.
That was it. What would you think was homes? Because for me, I suppose I would always think, even though I am a grown woman with my own family and house and everything, home, I instantly think of my mother's house. I don't know, do I necessarily think of Waterford, but for me, I thought for you it would be just like Dublin, you know, because you're such a dub, you know, to me, as a not dub, which is the technical term for people that live outside of Dublin.
I remember great great poet, Derek Coyle in Carlow, and he was like, "Oh, you're a real dub," and I'm like, "What is that?" I don't know what that. You know what I mean? Because I just walk around going, like,
I suppose for people that don't come from Dublin, well, I suppose obviously there's an accent, but it's the kind of slightly more urbane than the rest of us.
That's mad. And again, it goes back to, like, I'm not a dub. I'm not just a dub. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
And then
yeah,
people
yeah.
are like, you're a real dub. And I'm like, what even is that?
Yeah.
And then it's like, so when I think of home, I think of family. I think of...
Yeah.
And I go into skills all the time, and I work with people, like, it's not just at skills, but like, you know, anywhere I'm working and I'm asking them, like, where are they? Tell me where you are. And a lot of the time it's like, it's really negative about where they are, because it's this gigantic thing that they're in, the city,
Yeah.
the estate, and it's a kip.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's an Irish thing, but everywhere they go, everyone's like, this is a kip.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And then you say, well, yes, but close the door, sit down in the house, what's that?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, that's all right.
Yeah, that's
You know?
safer. Yeah, yeah.
You know, and sometimes, you know, there's stuff going on there, but when I think of home, I think of, like, just, you know, being a family man and
Yeah.
all of that, like, ticking clock stuff, and, like, you know,
Yeah. Cups of tea.
my little salt lamp in the corner.
Salt lamp.
I love my salt lamp, because what the salt lamp actually is, this is really relevant for all the people interested in poetry.
This is going to get
It's the
edited
colour
out.
of what a salt lamp actually is. Its true power is the colour of firelight.
Okay.
I think that's what people don't realise about it. Says the mansplaining man. Talking about what people don't realise about salt lamps. Right, no, but like, that's, I didn't realise its power over me, you know what I mean, was that colour.
Okay.
Because, you know, just a lovely sense of, like, coziness from the orange light in a house. So, but anyway, all that aside, that's the lovely inside life of a home. But like, the poem that I wanted to read, because I was thinking of the city. I remember someone saying to me years ago that nobody really writes about the city, you know, realising that, you know, there's not much difference between most cities. The structure of them ends up being the same, you know. And I'll touch on that a little bit later when I'm reading another poem, but like, just, this is Chicken Town by Johnny Cooper Clarke. So, and there's an F word in it, there's one F word in this version, right? But like, what Johnny Cooper Clarke was asked to do so that he could do the poem at BBC was replace the F word with bloody.
Okay.
So it's just the bloody this and the bloody that for, like, you know, incessantly.
Yeah.
So Chicken Town. The bloody cops are bloody clean. Sorry, the bloody cops are bloody keen to bloody keep it bloody clean. The bloody chiefs are bloody swine who bloody draws a bloody line at bloody fun and bloody games. The bloody kids he bloody blames are nowhere to be bloody found anywhere in Chicken Town. The bloody scene is bloody sad. The bloody news is bloody bad. The bloody weed is bloody turf. The bloody speed is bloody surf. The bloody folks are bloody daft. Don't make me bloody laugh. It bloody hurts to look around everywhere in Chicken Town. The bloody train is bloody late, you bloody wait, you bloody wait. You're bloody lost and bloody found, stuck in fucking Chicken Town. The bloody view is bloody vile, for bloody miles and bloody miles. The bloody flowers bloody die, the bloody babies bloody cry. The bloody field is bloody muck, the bloody drains are bloody fucked. The colour scheme is bloody brown everywhere in Chicken Town. The bloody pubs are bloody dull, the bloody clubs are bloody full of bloody girls and bloody guys with bloody murder in their eyes. A bloody bloke is bloody stabbed, waiting for a bloody cab. You bloody stay at bloody home, the bloody neighbours bloody moan. Keep the bloody racket down, this is bloody Chicken Town. The bloody pies are bloody old, the bloody chips are bloody cold, the bloody beard is bloody flat, the bloody flats have bloody rats, the bloody clocks are bloody wrong, the bloody days are bloody long. It bloody gets you bloody down, evidently Chicken Town. The bloody train is bloody late, you bloody wait, you bloody wait, you're bloody lost and bloody found, stuck in fucking Chicken Town.
I forgot about that poem.
Yeah, it's class.
I remember, I kind of like a vague memory of the first time I might have heard it or probably seen it, like on TV or something, you know?
Sopranos.
Yeah.
It's on at the end of The Sopranos. By then there was a great
A terrible admission to make. I haven't
never watched it.
Well, I have watched some of it, but not all of it.
References quite a bit of poetry.
Does it?
Yeah, there's a big deal made about the Second Coming at one point, Yeats, and Tony Soprano's son he's like, I know everything about everything, you know, and he's like a young college student, and he keeps, have you ever read Yeats? But he talks about the Second Coming, and but like, there was a really dramatic episode, and at the end of it, just Johnny Cooper Clarke just kicks in.
How old is that poem? Do you know?
The 80s, I think, maybe even late 70s.
Yeah, because I have a remembrance of maybe hearing it or watching it with my dad, like when I was a teenager, you know?
Yeah, no, I think there was, like, he did it on Channel 4.
Yeah.
Or BBC. It was BBC.
Yeah.
And he stands up and he's looking in a mirror and he does the whole poem.
Yeah, so that must be it.
That whole kind of pop pop star, no, rock star kind of look to him. Like, he looked really cool.
Yeah.
And it's just like the frustration, the pointlessness of, like, you know, Morrissey used, like, in his enormously long autobiography, talks about, like, growing up in England, streets upon streets upon streets, and just the pointlessness of urban life when you're just everywhere you turn a corner and there's nowhere to go but more of what you're in.
Yeah.
And I just think that really catches that, and just like the sort of, and it, like, it's full of, like, it's kind of cruel.
Yeah.
I love a poem with a good cruel eye.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but then it's pathetic. There's lots of, like, people that you feel like, but then it's that part, a bloody bloke is bloody stabbed waiting for a bloody cab, and the tragedy of that brutality that the city, that I see in Dublin all the time, that really makes me angry about Dublin.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, I see this mad combination of just, like, you know, sometimes violence and stupidity, and maybe just lack of empathy.
Yeah, but I guess that pertains to every city all over the world.
City, and it's something to do with anonymity, I think, sometimes as well, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the haves and the have-nots, and the way people congregate together in cities or whatever, you know.
Yeah. But it's like, I think when I read that, and another, what's it, like, That's Entertainment, is it Paul Weller, when he was in the Jam, and it's just like, the thing happens, then another thing, then another thing. That's what I see. It's like, what?
Yeah,
Sirens, what the hell? Something over there. I was like walking through a park just last week in Dublin, and I had to stop some fella, like, attacking his nephew with a 2 litre of cider. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, what are you? You're not supposed to hit that nephew. There was this fully grown nephew who was about 6 foot tall, and your mum was looked in his 60s, and I was just like, you know, the random firework explosion of stuff going on everywhere. And a lot of the time, he was talking 2000 AD, the comic used to read growing up, about footsie, like, it was like, that sounds like something else, but like going mad, like, because you just can't cope living in the future. Yeah. And it's like, you just see that kind of popping off a lot of times in cities. And then just the whole chicken town and the way it evokes. Yeah. It's just, there's too much going. You don't have room to think. You don't have room to express, or, like, there's no freedom. Yeah. Yeah, I love that poem. And then there's something sort of wallowing in it and loving it as well. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's that kind of, like, it's funny. Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, and just calling it like it is instead of saying it's something it's not, you know. Johnny Cooper Clarke is deadly. I remember in school we had to, you know, like when I was doing this, I could think of, like, loads of substitute teachers who came in and said something deadly about poetry. Like, just mad, you know. He's just like, what's he doing? You know, I'm your principal, but I'm here because the maths teacher is out. Yeah. And then Mr. O'Brodick, like, our old principal, and he was like, if you'll all be quiet, like, one day he was like, I'll whistle the national anthem of the European anthem, and then he does it, and we're all like, he's a dope, you know what I mean? And he thinks he's charming, and we're like, you're an idiot. And then another time he just, like, he knew Peg off by heart. Like, who does that? You know what I mean? And then he just one day was like, he did the Johnny Cooper Clarke poem, which has a deadly title, and I can't remember it now, but it was like, it's like curry shop kung fu. Oh, yeah, yeah, remember, yeah. Like, and it's just about a fella getting hopped on outside a chipper, and it was and you know, we used to all hang around outside the chipper, and there was people getting hopped on outside. I was like, I never heard the truth, like, I never heard, like, our life in poetry, like, and there's the teacher, like, you know, who can recite Peg, he's reciting this mad poem, and it was just deadly, you know. Yeah, something about, like, Johnny Cooper Clarke recites everything, you know, and Roddy Doyle famously said, there's no good poets, only Johnny Cooper Clarke.
I never heard that.
Which really bugs me about Roddy, like, Roddy, what's the story, like?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah.
But, yeah.
Who are you reading at the moment?
Like, I've 3 poetry books that I'm reading at the minute, and one of them, to my shame, is lost, and I couldn't find it when I wanted to bring it, but, like, I printed out one of the poems from it. So C.K. Williams, who's a deadly American poet, Fallen Ill, and then Arias by Sharon Olds, and David Harson's Fire Songs. But I can't remember which one I said I was going to read, because they're all, there's stuff in them all. I might go back to C.K. Williams, but Sharon Owls, like, just, there's a lovely, I'll read this poem and then when we tell you a little bit after,
Yeah.
if that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this, there's a lovely story with this poem. I'll tell you after I read it. Departure Gate Aria. She was standing near the departure gate, sandal-footed, her wiggly hair and the lattice work of her Mercury footwear, the same satiny gold, and there was something wistful about her. Under the burnish of her makeup, she looked extremely young and a little afraid. I wanted to speak to her, as if I were a guardian spirit walking the airport. God knows I was crazed with my fresh solitariness, so I did a little double take when I passed her and said, "Could I ask, where did you get your sandals?" "My husband," I lied, "wants me to get some," and she said a name as if relieved to speak. "Thanks," I said. "They look great with your hair." Actually, my head bowed down on its own. "You look like a goddess." Her face came out from behind its cloud. "You don't know how I needed that," she cried out. "I'm going to meet my boyfriend's parents." "You'll do just fine," I said. "You look beautiful and good." She looked joyful. I bustled off. "So this is what I'll do now. Instead of kissing and being kissed, I'll go through airports praising people like an antichrist saying, 'You do not need to change your life.'"
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, isn't it? She's fucking deadly. Oh, I shouldn't be cursing. Is there probably a thing about cursing with this?
I don't know.
It'll be bleeped out.
Yeah, bleep it out.
But yeah, she's... there's so much going on in this poem as well, for me. It's the tone is slightly hysterical. It's like I'm on the verge of a breakdown myself. I'm lonely in an airport. I can see somebody that reminds me of the person I used to be. I'm going to help her out, but also it's like she might need someone too. There's lots of hints to what she has just gone through. "My husband," I lied, "wants me to get some," you know. And then what's the other part? She says, her fresh solitariness. So the poet's just been through something and then is alone and isolated and is a bit like a ghost in the airport looking for somebody to put kind of wind in her sails, you know. And I love the end, just this sneaky little line break. "You do not need," just that on its own, then the line break, "to change your life." But even just to say you do not need, there's something very zen about that.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know, like, just relax.
And I suppose the notion of departure gates, departure lounges as well evokes something very strong in a lot of people. It certainly does for me, you know. I think about all of those departure gates, you know, when I was going somewhere or when somebody was leaving, you know. Think about my brother when he's, you know, every Christmas when I cried the place down and he was mortified in Dublin airport, you know.
And then that mad thing when you're, like, I was on the street in Dublin last week and it was nearly like I could see 19-year-old me sitting down straightening his tie on the opposite steps getting ready for his first job interview. Wow. It was like I was sitting on there and there's a bit of that going on here. It's like she's looking at her. It is maybe the other person, maybe neither of these people exist, you know. I was reading something else recently and they were like, it was about Sappho and it's like nobody really knows enough about her. You can't really trust her poems about what she says about herself in the poem, and it's the same with Sharon Owls here. You know, how much of this is true? How much is constructed? How much, you know, and sometimes there's the l'esprit, l'escalier, you know, the spirit of the stair. A lot of poems, a lot of tweets as well are like, here's what I would have said. You know what I mean? And it's like sometimes we do these great corrections in the poem, you know, if you didn't say the wrong thing or you say the right thing in the poem that you never got to say, you know. I can think
isn't that the privilege of the poet, you know?
You know. And then just to not, it's like to learn, to retrieve it's the lesson from the mistake. A lot of the time, a good poem, like Leonard Cohen was saying before, like life is what's lived, and I can't remember, I'm always misquoting people, but like poetry's like, after you're born out of life, poetry is the ashes kind of thing.
Okay.
You know? But it's full of like hippie iconography as well, you know? Everyone's like sandaled and this wiggly hair and lattice work.
Curls, whatever,
Mercury footwear, you know?
Have you a poem full disclosure with this is not my question. This actual question, it was asked first by Kay Tempest, so I'm stealing it from them. Has a poem ever frightened you?
Yeah, like, I was thinking about that as well. Like, this book frightens me. Like, this is, C.K. Williams. I was just picked him up in chapters in Dublin. And I was like, oh yeah, he's good. You know what I mean? I just went over and I picked it up and was like, oh, it's all the poems about him dying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he's like, and so this book is a bit like, did you ever see a Rothko painting?
Yeah.
And like, they're really creepy. They kind of laugh at you.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of bring you right to the edge of like what's known, and they're like, you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of grab you, and you're just left sitting there. Now some of them are really beautiful, but some of them are. He talked about like he's only interested in the tragedy, like the ecstasy of tragic understanding, like kind of like that. You only see when you lose things. That's when you truly see. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's like the tragic insight of all Shakespeare's characters as well. I think like they know everything, they know it all, but it's all gone.
Yeah.
And this feels like that. It's just a man coming to terms with terminal illness, and it's really brave and unflinching, tidy as well. Every poem is 5 3-line stanzas, and it's like really scaled. The poem I'm going to read is Really, it's called, and I did that thing I thought was genius, sticking all the poems inside the book and then I take the poems out, and then so yeah, we don't like to think about what he's looking at, I think, and sometimes the brave poets scare us with the truth, So this is really happening. This is really not merely my death drawing closer, but the messy, undomesticated sprawl of thought which all but the most fortunate have to go through here, the indignities, degradations, anything that might be left of self-cultivation swiped away. And then it might be this day when you'll be reduced to the outposts of mind, scattered through the corporeal self and the facts of the flesh you can no longer regulate or contain, all loosening, turning to pathos and grief. And why is this happening, you want to ask, well knowing the answer isn't to be born. So, yeah. And I was like, fuck. I was like, oh no.
Bloody.
Oh my goodness, yeah. It's like I didn't want to know that, you know what I mean? And it's such a brave book, but I think as you get older as well, that's the thing. I think that's the only thing that really scares me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like most of all, what he's confronting here as well, might be this day when you'll be reduced to the outpost of mind, scattered through the corporeal self. And it's like, just like we were so proud of our own identities, and that's the thing that we have to let go of as well. But then there's something really to be admired in this tracking and documenting of the experience that it does. You know what I mean? Reminded of like I read Raymond Carver's letters, like brilliant, and then they just stop. It's like, and the last letter doesn't know that that's the last letter.
That's the last letter.
But this last poem, I didn't want to read it because it's just too sad, But he's really just kind of taken us right to the edge of what he's going through, and for anyone to read it and then understand and be able to, he's articulating like sort of what's impossible to articulate, I think, as well, So yeah.
The poem that speaks to you about love as you know it now, which is obviously very different. And
So
it's a change I suppose the reason why I said specifically now is because it changes so much as you grow older, or it's very different to what it would be when it was set, when we were 17.
When we had it all worked out. Yeah, I struggled with this one because it's such a cliche. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, here's my poem about love. Oh, it's about someone you love, is it? It's like when I'm reviewing poetry or when I'm reading poems for other people and they're like, talking about how much they love someone, it's just like, oh wow, yeah, do you? Oh mad, yeah, you're in love. It's just like, but like, it's where love is where cynicism goes to die.
Yeah.
Like you can't beat love. Do you know what I mean? And then it's like, it's a bit like the sea. You just like, when you start writing about it, it's just like, it all fails. You can't really, like, you know,
capture it.
But then, you know, poetry, I think, exists because like a word like love just isn't good enough. So we go and find 300 words that will say it in this really complex way, that will nail it and deliver it to somebody's heart directly. You know what I mean? Like like when I started writing poems, like that's what it was for. It was like little Valentines to people. You know, you're writing them out like.
Yeah.
And then sort of trying to articulate the feelings, and I always talk about how love turns into words, you know, because it's like it has to go beyond the body, and then it kind of disappears back into the body, because ultimately that's the way we express it, you know. And I really wanted to pick a particular poem, and I'm really chuffed to read it, and I can't wait to read it, but I can't read it now because it's part of the Waterford Poetry Prize, and I won't say what position or anything like that, but there's a poem that I would love to share that I read in the competition, which I was so delighted about, because it's like, what would you say? It's like what you said, like the way I am about it now, how I feel about love now.
Yeah.
I was like, that's
it.
You know what I mean?
You'll have to tune into that next segment of the festival.
Yeah, and I thought for the crack at this poem, just because like, by Eimear, the American poet, Fireworks. I just thought it's a bit laugh, and it's actually about meeting someone you hate. So, you hate me and I hate you. We are so polite, we two. But whenever I see you, I burst apart and scatter the sky with my blazing heart, in spits and sparkles, in stars and balls, buds into roses and flares and falls, scarlet buttons and pale green discs, silver spirals and asterisks, shoot and tremble in a mist, peppered with mauve and amethyst. I shine in the window and light up the trees, and all because I hate you, if you please. And when you meet me, you rend asunder, and go up in a flaming wonder of saffron cubes and crimson moons and whales and amaranths and maroons, golden lozenges and spades, arrows of malachites and jades, patterns of copper, azure shaves. As you mount, you flash in the glossy leaves. Such fireworks as we make, we two, because you hate me and I hate you. I remember, like there's so many poems, you know what I mean? Especially love poems, and they're all like snowflakes in a blizzard, the way they hit you. There's one, and you're just like, oh yeah, that's the one for me. And there's so many of them that could be the one, you know what I mean? But I love the poems that you find, like that find you, you don't find them. And I was just driving the car one day, and I just was kind of grabbed by that poem, like it was being read by some amazing British actress on BBC Radio, and I was just like, that's not hate, you know, because it just got so passionate, and it was just like, and it was nearly like the poem was sticking in her throat because she was so overwhelmed with emotion, and I was like, is she in love, you know what I mean? And then I read it now, and I'm like, as you mount, you flash in the glossy leaves, and it's just like this firework going up in the sky, but it's just like there's a couple of little subtle hints in there, you know. It's like the poem was about sort of revealing all of these, like, you know, the sort of the fireworks of sort of expression and honesty, and how good it is to feel like true, you know, like, do you ever fall in hate with someone?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm really sure I hate you, and the poem is like that, but then when you read it, it's just like, maybe it's actually, you know, coming to terms with the fact that they really like the person on stage. I love that about it, so that's why I just brought that one. Yeah,
it's great. I think this would be very challenging to answer myself, so that's why I'm asking you. The poem that comes closest to perfection for you.
Yeah, like, again, it's just like, it's a real curveball question, because then, like, I can't define perfection. I don't know what it is. It's like that snowflake thing as well. It's like each one, they're all perfect. Like, the right poems are perfect in their own way. And it was like, I was thinking of, like, Gwendolyn Brooks, We Real Cool. It's just a perfect little poem. There's loads of deadly things going on, and I'd love to talk about that for a while. And then Michael Hartnett's Necklace of Wrens, again, just a little perfect poem. And then his Inchicore haiku is like, excuse me, this huge big sequence of haiku. And each one's kind of perfect in their own right, beautifully little kind of raw haikus. Yeah, and you know, loads of kind of formal poets like Don Patterson, Clive James, people like that. And Emily Dickinson has a great poem about the brain that's just like brilliantly, I think it's just six lines or something like that, and it's just a little machine, you know. But I was thinking then of like just the best poem that I can think of at the minute. Like, and where is it gone? The Statue of the Virgin at Granard Speaks by Colm Keegan, because I just think it's perfectly. It's just so. I don't know if it's sure if it's target, but it's just perfectly aimed. It says exactly what it has to say, and it's sort of unforgettable. And I can remember, like they say, you know, you remember where people talk about where they were when, you know, like some significant kind of like global event happens, but like, you know, sometimes feel like, you know, everyone's like, oh, I know where I was when Kennedy was shot.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and everyone remembers. Like sometimes I can remember, like when a poem just kind of wakes you up and shocks you into awareness. You're like, what? And this poem was like that for me. So the Statue of the Virgin at Granard Speaks. It can be bitter here at times like this. November wind sweeping across the border. Its seeds of voice would cut you to the quick. The whole town tucked up safe and dreaming. Even wild things gone to earth. And I, stuck up here in this grotto, without as much as a star or planet to ease my vigil. The howling won't let up. Trees cavort in agony as if they would be free and take off. Ghost voyagers on the wind that carries intimations of garrison towns, walled cities, ghetto lanes, where men hunt each other and invoke the various names of God as blessing on their death tactics, their night manoeuvres. Closer to home, the wind sails over dying lakes. I hear fish drowning. I taste the stagnant water mingled with turf smoke from outlying farms. They call me Mary, blessed, holy, virgin. They fit me to a myth of a man crucified, the scourging and the falling again, the thorny crown, the hammer blow of iron into wrist and ankle, the sacred bleeding heart. They name me mother of all this grief, though mated to no mortal man. They kneel before me and their prayers fly up like sparks from a bonfire, that blaze of a moment, then wink out. It can be lovely here at times, springtime, early summer, girls in communion frocks, pale rivals to the riot in the hedgerows of cow parsley and haw blossom, the perfume from every rushy acre that's left for hay when the light swings longer with the sun's push north, or the grace of a midsummer wedding when the earth herself calls out for coupling, and I will break loose of my stony robes, pure blue, pure white, as if they'd robbed a child's sky for their colour. My being cries out to be incarnate, maculate and tussled in a honeyed bed. Even an autumn burial can work its own pageantry, the hedges heavy with the burden of fruiting, crab, sloe, berry, hip, clouds scud east, pear-scented, wind falls secret in long orchard grasses, and some old soul is lowered to his kin. Death is just another harvest, scripted to the season's play. But on this All Souls' night there is no respite from the keening of the wind. I would not be amazed if every corpse came risen from the graveyard and joined in exultation with the gale, a cacophony of bone imploring sky for judgment and release from being the conscience of a town. On a night like this I remember a child who came with 15 summers to her name, and she lay down alone at my feet without midwife or doctor or friend to hold her hand, and she pushed her secret out into the night, far from the town, tucked up in little scandals, bargains struck, words broken, prayers, promises, and though she cried out to me in extremis, I did not move. I didn't lift a finger to help her. I didn't intercede with heaven, nor whisper the charmed word in God's ear. On a night like this, I number the days to the solstice and the turn back to the light. O sun, centre of our foolish dance, burning heart of stone, molten mother of us all, hear me and have pity.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just like, there's so much going on in it. Like I was just talking about like Dublin as well, or any place that's big enough to have its problems. And then just I think it's a brilliant description of any Irish place.
Yeah.
The wind that carries intimations of garrison towns, walled cities, ghetto lanes where men hunt each other and invoke the various names of God. And it's just like, there's so many things going on in it. It takes on this journey, you don't know where it's going, and then it just like grabs hold of you and it puts it, like I remember someone saying to me, I think it was the poet John Murphy, that a good poem or a good short story, it kind of grabs your head in the voice. Or you don't even know, it's slowly closing your voice on your head for the whole time until you can't look away and you're seeing the thing and they've put you somewhere and you find out something that you didn't know they were taking you to. And it's just like, it's, you know, I think poems, you know, I think someone said poems can't change the world, but they can change your mind, you know, that way. And you can just, like, I wasn't around, I wasn't reading poems when that had its initial impact, when it went off, you know what I mean? Like what I imagine is an explosion, and the way it was transmitted to different people and the way it kind of would have changed people at that time, and it would have been articulating a frustration, that an anger, a grief, you know, that was there for everybody at the time. And there's this lovely run of like G sounds in it, you know, this kind of, the poem kind of growls, you know, there's this mad growl of the G sounds in it, there's all this grief, the thing is fuming, you know what I mean, it's just like raging, angry and guilty. Just do that thing like that. Its true power, I think, is like it shifts around and the poet takes response. It's like, you know, the poet is taking on this voice that doesn't exist to say, I, you know, I did not move, I didn't lift the finger to help her. And we all collectively feel that weight. We're kind of like, I could have done more. And then the society kind of go, and it's like that thing I was talking about where sometimes you're retrieving the mistake in the poem. It's like, we should have done better. We all let it happen. And it has to stop. And then she just fucking like takes the whole of like Catholicism and dogma and just like a big fucking veil on our heads, and she just pushes it out of the way and says it's just us straight to the sun. There should be nothing fucking there. And she's like, and it's just that beautiful kind of pagan dismantling of everything back to the truth of like what we are, you know, direct line to the sun, all this bullshit that gets put in the middle between us.
They have that in tantric philosophy as well, you know, the veils that you're constantly trying to reveal the, you know, the true. Yeah. And that you're constantly kind of trying to polish that mirror, you know, through your meditation or, you know, yoga or whatever, Yeah, and
I think a good poem is about getting in touch with the divine, and whatever the divine is.
For you,
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, and, you know, you could be the most atheist, you know, person and still be in touch with that divine beauty of what it means to be alive. Do you know what I mean? And it's like a good poem. Like, think of, there was a great poem in the Poetry Review, Derek Mahan, it's probably one of the last poems he wrote. And it was like, there's all this madness, and then it was like, but look at the well. And it was just brought us back to the old wells that were there for thousands of years, that were divine and worshipped, and places of cleansing and all of that kind of stuff, before all this stuff got put on top of it. And it's like, and it goes back to that mysticism that Kavanagh put me in touch with, I think, as well. It's like, it's just there, like, there's no, you know, it's like, they say a good leader makes you want to lead, and a good poet makes you want to write. And it's like, they don't kind of go, I'm the thing, I'm the solution. They're like, there it is, so, you know. I just kind of go, I only go, you know. But, and, you know, I think Paula can be a bit like sort of deified as this new kind of like high figure of poetry. But like, I think that's not, you know, you don't get there by accident in a way. And like people, she's revered, and like I'd say rightly so, because of what she can do, and what she has done. You know what I mean? I was in a school that she was in years ago, and she's like, they still know, like the kids still know that she kept getting expelled from the school. Do you know what I mean? And like, she was just always kind of fighting in that way that she is there. And it's just like, it's like sometimes all you have is poems. You know, it's like that's like a poem that sort of meets the machine head on and sort of starts to destroy it like over a few hundred years. You know what I mean? Like some of those poems, I feel like you'll be reading in 100 years.
Yeah, it does have that feeling actually.
Yeah, it's like, so there was a benchmark.
That's a classic. You know, it's there.
Yeah, there was a benchmark in Irish society. There was a benchmark in our history, and this is how it was articulated. And this is the response to what happened at the time.
Yeah.
You know.
The poem that inspired you to visit somewhere you've never been or explore something unknown to you.
Yeah, again, I had a little bit of a fight in my head about this one because I was thinking when I was in, so I did me leaving cert, did me PLC, went to do like advertising and design, and I remember and there was loads of stuff. I remember being at advertising, I was like, so it's just, so you lie, you trick people into it. It's like Coke is happiness. Okay, I get it. I understand, you know what I mean? And I was like, I don't really feel like I can do it. I remember thinking at the time, I don't think I can do that, you know? And obviously spent 20 years then helping to do that, like as a graphic designer, like, you know what I mean? But there was a statistics exam, like it was a big deal, you know, we had like 10 exams at the end of the year and I just went on the hop for the statistics exams. Like, it's not, I knew I was going to fail, I'm just terrible at numbers. I went off on a little drive around, cycle around on my mountain bike, and I went to where Kavanagh wrote Canal Bank Walk, you know what I mean? So and I was thinking that's a good example and it's a nice way of bookending it, but then I was like, it's not really, it's a bit like back to Kavanagh again, you know?
Yeah.
I was thinking like of Kerry O'Brien's poem about Notre Dame.
Okay.
And like put it in on a technicality because it kind of made me go back to the rose window in Notre Dame again and see it a different way. But like, you know, I was going to Paris anyway. Do you know what I mean? So like it's not, but it's a deadly poem. And when I was thinking of a poem that took me somewhere, that's the one that came to mind. So I have it here with my 3 million poems. So Notre Dame by Kerry O'Brien. Certain mornings I would be the only one to see the force streams of it, light, tumbling through stained glass, smattering everything, red, gold, rose, blue, the beauty almost frightening. Eve's Klein would daub his women blue and hurl them at the canvas, living brushes, haphazard and outrageous, same effect, different every day. This glittering cave, big, beautiful, lit up thing, it knew and knew why I had come, blue, gold, rose, red, falling like water, my river walk, my morning prayer. I would step into it slow, circling the altar, gold cross flickering in the centre, anchored, rooted, still, as above, so below, eyes closed, filling my heart with the warmth of it, until my body was sunlight and roses, and the fear fell away in petals. Would you believe it if I told you nothing felt separate?
That's good. Like, would you believe? Like that's
good.
That's good poetry.
Yeah.
There's quite a thread of like spirituality through a lot of the poems that you've chosen.
Yeah, like it's funny, you know.
Is that a particular like that phase that you're going through?
No,
or
just
no,
coincidence. But like, it's mad when you think I'm talking about, you get all the stuff out of the way and it's just the sun, and you're like, no, you can put a big shiny window in front of the sun. But that's kind of what you know, those systems do. They kind of, there's the sunlight anyway, and then it's like, well, we can, you know, we can build this big cathedral to light. You know what I mean? It's kind of mad. But the poem, like, there's a few. I remember someone saying to me about that line. What was it that they didn't like it? Big, beautiful, lit up thing. You know, it's too like kind of like simple or.
I love that.
But it's like it reduces you to the awe-filled child. You know what I mean? So that's why I like that line. So it's like it is. That's, you know, you're just like agog at its beauty. You know.
It's like what I say to you about the 4-year-old saying, "Mommy, it's a bouncy castle."
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
you know.
And there's just a sense of like something's gone on. You know, and like with the when I was hinting at, was talking about Cavanagh with the Canal Bank walk, and it's kind of the mystic vision comes from, he's shocked into awareness by, you know, an illness and a big operation, and like questioning, like, oh, am I gonna die?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then he goes to sit on the canal. He's like, this is it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is.
yeah.
I really want to be here. I'm so glad I'm here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I was saying about talking about home and all that, often the most peaceful poems come after something really serious has happened.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just get a sense that there's a moving on going on here, I think, and something's changed. And there's like there's the ghost of violence in the poem, the brutal kind of artist, literally like hurling women at the canvas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The kind of price of creativity and all that in there as well. And it's a very kind of like modern poem in the shape of it, you know. It's like, and what it chooses to emphasise, it's real kind of just, there's no kind of formal structure to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's cinematic, you know. Each line is like a beat in a, it's where the director puts the camera next and it just moves down. It's beautiful control, I think. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Do you find when you're reading poetry that you're constantly critiquing it in that sense, you know, like in format?
No.
Is that no?
No. Like if I'm reading a poem, I'm just reading a poem.
Yeah. You're not like...
No.
Yeah.
It's like after.
Okay.
The best ones, it's like they charm you into submission. You're just like, oh, this is really like the Sharon Olds poem there. You just like her voice, just you're like so casual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you're like, I think a good poem is like it makes you listen to things you don't want to hear, as well. You know, and they're always trying to sort of. They just make it, like a good poem makes you trust it, I think. And I think they're all examples of that. All the way go back to Kavanagh was just like, I want to listen to this guy. He's like, I'm feeling the vibe. Like, he's sound, he seems alright, you know. I just read a poem. And I remember like years ago, the first book of poems I had to read for RT Arena was Theo Dorgan's collection, Greek, I think it was called. And I was like, right, I want to like, you know, take my chance to take a big poet down. You know what I mean? And it's just like, shut up, just read the poems. And then when you just like put out, I think it's always an act of faith to read a poem, and your faith in the good ones is rewarded. You know what I mean? And it's like, good poems just I think happen to you, and they kind of charm you into. They're just charming, little beautiful, charming instruments. You know what I mean?
What a lovely way to end the interview.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me down in Downs.
Downs.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
No whiskey this time.
No, thankfully. Nice one. We hereby end the thing. We hereby end the thing. The thing is hereby over.
The thing is